Can there be true freedom without justice? This as South Africa struggles to prosecute Apartheid-era crimes and the effects on the families affected. Calata Foundation Spokesperson Lukhanyo Calata joins me now to talk about this. Lukhanyo, always a pleasure to have you on here on In Focus. Last time we were talking, there was a sense of things moving forward, right? It was around July. You had just signed an affidavit that would finalize the case, compelling the NPA to conclude its investigation. Later that year, in November, we had the Justice Minister saying there'll be additional resources that would be provided to bring this long-running matter of the Craddock 4 to conclusion. In fact, a judge was going to be appointed to conclude this investigation and make sure that everyone is held accountable. Has the NPA come up with a prosecution decision?
Well, good evening, and thank you so very much, obviously, for having us. No, there's been no decision yet from the NPA on whether or not it's going to prosecute. The investigation, however, is going well. I can tell you that as recently as this Monday, the Hawks investigators were in Craddock. They met with my mother. They took down some statements from her on issues obviously pertaining to the investigation, and a meeting that one of my father, the guy that had actually killed my father, had asked a meeting with my mother, I think in the early 90s or late 90s, I'm sorry. And so the Hawks went to our house on Monday, and they went to go and take this statement from my mother. So at least there's progress in that the Hawks are investigating. I don't know how long it's going to take them to close the investigation, hand that over to the NPA, and then for the NPA to then give us a prosecutorial decision.
Yeah. Your 3-decade quest for justice, do you think it's too common a story for many in a democratic South Africa, in a sense that there are too many closed doors to benefit certain people? I mean, in your cases, of course, the doors of those that need to be prosecuted, but it could be other arrangements that are happening elsewhere, maybe even in the economy, that are blocking certain other people in the country from accessing those freedoms.
Thabo, look, I mean, our story as a family and as a member of the Craddock 4 is not unique. For instance, the family of Mapetla Mohapi is still very much in the same position that they were in 1976. The family of Imam Harun, they're still very much in the position they were in 1969. The family of Nokuthula Simelane are still very much in the position they were in 1983. The family of Sphiwe Mtimkhulu are still very much in the position they were in 1981. So we can go on and on and on, and we know from a statement that was released by the F.W. de Klerk Foundation last year, that was before the former apartheid president died, that there were deals that were entered into between former apartheid operatives and ANC leaders. And those deals meant that TRC cases such as ours, such as Nokuthula Simelane, such as Imam Harun, such as Mapetla Mohapi, such as Steve Biko, that those cases will not be prosecuted. Now, what we need to know is who are these ANC leaders that entered into those deals? Because when they did so without the permission of us as the families. I can tell you that Tina, as a family for Calata, we had no say, none whatsoever in those deals. So whichever ANC leader entered into those deals did so without our mandate. And it's important, this question that you're asking around the issue of the economy, because we know that, for instance, like the former or the current president had a very, very, very good relationship with Rolf Meyer back in them days, and they were leading these negotiations. Today, the president is a multi-billionaire, you know what I mean? So how does he, within the space of 28 years, how does he amass so much wealth? Because it's clear to us that someone had to have opened the doors for him to go ahead and amass that wealth. What deals were made between the two of them? You know what I mean? So we have to interrogate these issues, and we can't just look at it at face value.
Yeah.
The African National Congress has to answer. It has to answer as to why. Why only one recommendation of the TRC, only one recommendation of the TRC was ever implemented, and that was to set up the missing persons unit, the one that's headed by Madeleine Fuller. What about all of the other recommendations of the TRC?
So, I mean, that then takes you to the question, of course, we have been asking also tonight, is it democracy if there are still books that are closed, that we do not have access to, others called sunset clauses, 28 years into South Africa's democracy?
Thabo, how can there ever be peace? How can there ever be justice? Right? How can there ever be freedom when we still don't have people held accountable for the crimes that they committed against our humanity? Remember, apartheid was declared a crime against humanity. That means that those people that were planning, that were implementing, that hurt us in the ways in which they did, those were crimes against our humanity. Now, how many of those criminals have ever been held accountable for committing those crimes against us? So what kind of a democracy is this, right? When people kill other people, but then the killers walk free. And those that are dead, their stories, their families must deal with the pain, must deal with the anger, must deal with the loss. What kind of a democracy are you going to have when one man's life means more than another man's life? Yeah. A democracy means that all of us are considered to be equal before the law. So the persons that planned Fort Calata's murder, why are they above the law? And why is Fort Calata not considered a human being enough for him to be worthy of justice? What kind of democracy are we going to have when a white man is considered more superior to a black life? Yeah. The ANC has to answer us for all of these questions, Thabo, and time is running out, my brother. Time is running out.
Speaking of time running out, I saw one of the articles in one of the online publications. It's an interview, you'll correct me if I'm wrong here, with one of the ministers, past ministers, who I believe is the only remaining person who needs to answer around the question of the Craddock 4. And there was a statement, I'm paraphrasing here, to the effect of the system of expecting him to go to a commission and confessing is not going to happen unless he's given guarantees of immunity. What comes to your mind when you hear something like that?
I think that article may have been the one written by a journalist called Hamilton Windy, when he was recalling an interview that he had with Adrian Flock. Now, Flock is one of a few former apartheid leaders and operatives and security branch members and military members that are still alive, that can still be held accountable for the murders of the Craddock 4. Look, I think it's ultimately, it's sad, and it speaks to an arrogance. It speaks to an arrogance that a killer would say that your commission means nothing to me. I am not going to go there unless I am guaranteed that nothing is going to happen to me. Right? The fact that ultimately the ANC agreed to that was a betrayal, Thabo, was a betrayal. And this freedom that we have today is a betrayal of the lives that we lost, of the lives that bled for this country. So it speaks to an arrogance that some white people in this country still do not consider us as black people human beings. They don't consider us to have any value, and therefore, even when they kill us, even when they kill our fathers, our mothers, our brothers, our sisters, our grandparents, it means nothing to them, because ultimately they must be protected by this ANC government.
Time is running out, as you mentioned, and you put it there. Minister are saying that they have agreed with the NPA that this matter of the Craddock 4 and all the other matters around the question of apartheid crimes would need to come to a finalization in the next 3 years. Do you think this is going to be possible?
No, it's not going to be possible at all, Thabo. Look, I mean, I think with Minister Ronald Lamola, sometimes he speaks just because he has to speak without actually thinking and considering what he's saying. For instance, there is a court that ordered Minister Ronald Lamola to appoint a commission to investigate why TRC cases were not investigated. Has he appointed that judge? How far is that process? Where he was ordered by a court to appoint a commission to investigate why TRC cases were suppressed. The Minister Ronald Lamola has still not appointed that commission. So in essence, he is in contempt of a court order, because every day that goes by without him appointing that commission is him telling the court, hey, court or judge, I don't care about your words. Your words mean nothing to me as the minister. Your order for me to appoint this commission mean nothing to me, because it is now, it's the 27th of April. He was ordered last year, I think in September, to appoint this commission. And he still hasn't appointed it. So it tells you everything that you need to know about how seriously the African National Congress takes the issue of TRC-related murders in this country and the deaths of our fathers. This tells you everything that you need to know about what the ANC thinks of that.
Does this weaken or strengthen our rule of law?
Oh, it weakens it completely. It weakens it completely, Thabo, because think about this. When a man walks around this country who has killed someone else, walks around with impunity, knowing that he will never be charged for these murders, it weakens the rule of law. Adrian Flock was in Craddock on the 5th of June, 1985. On the 6th of June, he went to Port Elizabeth. He chaired a meeting of the Joint Management Center. On the 7th of June, that same center, the head of that center, a brigadier that lives up in Gansbaai, his name is Joffel van der Westhuizen, he sent the military signal ordering the permanent removal of the Craddock 4. Now, Joffel van der Westhuizen continues to live in Gansbaai. I'm sure he does not have a care in the world that he will ever be charged for the murders of the Craddock 4. So too does Adrian Flock. So what does that tell you about the rule of law? It means nothing to these people. It weakens the rule of law, because it means that some people will get away with murder, and the ANC will be complicit and will allow them to do so.
Lukhanyo, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on tonight. Lukhanyo Calata, he is, of course, for the foundation, Calata Foundation Spokesperson. They have been fighting for justice for the past 3 decades.